Okay, so this is the head, and this obviously sits down, plops on top of those cylinders. And these, are you able to, I don't know if these, are obviously the tops of all the cylinders. These are the valves, those round thingies there. And the big one is normally the inlet valve, I'm not too sure actually, and one of them is the exhaust valve. So what happens is these things open. Okay, so this is the big one's the inlet valve. So they open and air comes in. Then they shut. The cylinder comes up and fires, goes down, and then the small one opens. That's the exhaust valve, and the exhaust gases get pushed out. That little thing there is the injector. That's what squirts the diesel in. So that's different to a petrol engine. And you can see actually if we it's kind of, I'll roll that up, way up. Better with that. Okay, and then that's the cylinder that had the blown gasket, and there it is basically right there. You can see if is there in. See how that's got a little hole in it there, and it's the water that's in this area, and there has actually, oh no, that's the bolt, isn't it? So that's the water was in here, and the water in that area is going to come coming out of there and into there. Actually, that's the push rod channel, I think. So that's a blown head gasket. So we're going to pull this gasket off. Now Yunko's going to do it in a minute, and we'll take. And then and we're going to go to town and see if we can find a new one, because this head is made of steel, I guess. On a modern car, these heads are made of aluminium. So when they get hot, what will happen is that this engine will now run out of water. The water will all get blown out the exhaust pipe. The engine will start running too hot. The head, the whole engine gets hot, but the part that gets the hottest is the head, and that is made of aluminium in a modern car, and that will then crack or warp. And so pretty much on a modern car, if you blow the head gasket, then often you end up with issues with the head as well. But with this, we're hoping, and in fact, because I'm tightwad and don't have any money, we're just going to actually just put a new head gasket in it and hope like crazy that it's fine, because this is old British steel, and it's probably heavy as crazy, and it'll we just think put a new head gasket on it, probably be fine. I think that's kind of about all we want to talk about in this video. This was, cut. Oh, now what's actually totally interesting about this motor is it's a pushrod motor. So this is real old school motor. This is like 1960s, and this is called a pushrod. Okay, so because basically the valves, which we're going to talk about in a minute, have to open and shut, and there's two ways of doing it, with an overhead cam or push rods. So with this motor, there's down in the bottom of the engine, there is some kind of cammy thing which goes up and down, and that pushes this rod up and down, up and down, up and down, and the rod is going to operate a rocker gear here and then push the valve up and down. That's opposed to a cam chain motor or an overhead cam, where there's a chain at the front, or a belt runs here, that turns the cam which is sitting up here, and the cam's spinning around up here and pushing the valves up and down. That's actually the best way apparently, or the most powerful way. But this is the old school way. So that's the push rod, and we had the head. This is the head. These are the valves. They've got to get pushed up and down. And so this thing is the which I've just broken. This sits on top here, and those push rods that I was talking about will sit in. They'll locate in here, and they will go up and down, and that will sit on there and push these up and down, up and down. I'm doing this very kind of rough, so you can't really see it, but does that make sense? So the push rod pushes up, and that pushes that valve down and opens it at the right time. And try not to lose everything. Okay. Okay, and now here's Yonko, and he's just removed the head gasket. So if you show us the head gasket, okay? So that's basically what a head gasket looks like. Okay, big thing. They're kind of about $100 for a set, I think I'm going to pay. And you can see, I'll just put it in the sunlight a bit better. The broken area was just here. Zero on that. Yeah. Okay, and that's where the water was going, and that's where the water would be leaking across and going down into the cylinder, and causing, as I said, water to blow out the exhaust pipe or to pressurize the radiator, because it goes up the inlet valve when it opens. Actually, I just explained that wrong. It doesn't go up the inlet valve because this is it goes. What happens is the other thing that will happen when you have a blown head gasket. I should go back to here. Is that when the piston is coming up with water in there, it basically forces the sort of like the exhaust and the diesel into the water chamber, which is then obviously going to the radiator and will make water blow out the radiator because you've got sort of like exhaust fumes and compressing gas or whatever being squirted into the cooling system. And so, two symptoms of a blown head gasket are actually, you can do this. So the whole thing is about blown head gaskets. So the two symptoms of a blown head gasket could be either or. Either water coming out your exhaust pipe. Now remember that a modern car sometimes will have little drips of water just from condensation. But you know, if your car is spurting water out the exhaust pipe, that's a bad sign. Or when you take the radiator cap off here and start your car up and you have water spurting out there, that means that, you know, that's a bad sign too, because that means that you've got, like, you know, exhaust gases which should be going out the exhaust pipe coming out your radiator. Okay, cut.